I think already we crossed three. Shall we start now or shall we wait for 2-3 minutes? Okay, let me start without delay. We're 8 people. So last class I already talked about migration and diaspora. This is also a very important topic, transnationalism and globalization. As you know, transnationalism is a reality now since last at least 50-60 years. Even it was before, but 50-60 years onwards, you find lots of development in communication. Then last 30 to 40 years, you find information technology brought lots of revolution. So that changed the way we live actually. People migrate to other places very frequently, and people can even connect with the homeland and various places of their, people instantly. So all these are happening because of so many factors, including communication and information technology, all this broadband, all this we think. Okay. In this unit, I'll be talking about how transnationalism and globalization are interlinked and their application and impact on society, culture, political system, and also to explore the diverse relationship between two terms and their similarity and differences. I'll also contextualize with regards to Indian diaspora, and finally I'll be talking about its implication in politics, policies, and socio-economic field. So this is very important. As we know, even world is almost 3% of global population are migrant, but when you talk about internal migrant, they almost close to 50%, and even international migrant are 50% or more in some countries. So this is a way we have been living now. It is nothing new for us. This is much more like, way of, living today. Everybody is migrant. But in this kind of situation, how things are happening. So this is a very important phenomenon, transnationalism. But when you talk about transnationalism, what kind of thing come to mind? Anybody can answer? Just to differentiate transnationalism, anybody can say? You can relate to any aspect of your life. Anybody? Okay, so I'll come to the definition later, but it is, transnationalism is very important phenomenon. It affects almost every part of our life, including, state politics, international governance, foreign policies. And we see over time so many organizations which are actually cutting across nation, and they're very much globalized. Like UN system, you find lots of other corporations and even transnational civil society organizations. These are all way of life today. You find certain places, something happened to particular group, and entire globe, across the globe, the network will be there and people protest in terms of human rights, in terms of climate change, in terms of anything happening today. Even cricket match we see across the globe, transnational response will be there. So this is a very much existential happening today, and this is affecting personal lives also, values. We think of today, we're transacting everything internationally. If we talk, these days we talk about Bitcoin, even stock market, in terms of investment, remittance, in terms of how we communicate and why how you watch your sports, everything transnational. And there are so many ethnic organizations which are also transnational, like Indian organization of global organization of people are of Indian origin. There are so many interest group and all this cut across nation. And when you talk about transnationalism, this is actually very much important to understand today's so many things, like socio-economic, political processes, including social movements, governance, politics, terrorism, political violence, and organized crime and all. You see today when you talk about, people are, somebody is doing some crime, not necessarily they are, singular, sometimes they are operated globally. Terrorism also like that. Even today, you see ideology also cutting across the nation. And when you think about Ukraine and Russia war, you find many youth from Western society, they volunteer to fight against Russia. Same thing happened to, other countries. We see Syria and other things, other countries also. You see people are, ideas, ideologies, economies, everything is transnational today. And this is a way of life for us. And even sports, philanthropy, everything, political campaign. Today, in India also, we find almost all, political parties, they have overseas presence, cutting across different nations. You find for BJP, they have, across the world, they have their own sympathizer and groups, Aam Aadmi Party or Congress, like that. So also in other countries, you find political parties having global presence. Huh? So these are all kind of, we are experiencing within India also, even every country is experiencing. So what is this term transnationalism? It's not a new term. First, it was used in 1916 by an American writer, Randolph Bourne. But that time he was referring to multiculturalism. Transnationalism, in fact, it has many, meanings. How economists see different, that is different from how the anthropologists see, how the cultural, um, culturally we see. So all these differ from one another. But formally, in the context of migration, it was used in 1990s. By then, 1990s, people have migrated and all. But before 90s, there is a different, kind of experience of migration. People never, it is very difficult to communicate with people back home or wherever their communities are there. Because sometimes a letter comes for, it takes 3 months. And people come once in a while, maybe 10 years, 20 years once in a while. But after 90s, things got changed. People, due to IT revolution and all, people used to communicate very frequently. And that changed the, diasporic experience differently, the transnational experience differently. And it affected in every field, not just business, but the social life and the cultural life and political life also. All this I'll talk in later slides. So when you talk about transnationalism, it is defined as a process by which migrants, through their daily life activities, create social fields that cut across national boundaries. Transnationalism broadly refers to multiple ties and interaction linking people or institutions across the borders of nations. Today you see UN organization across nations, every nation they have office. Same with big corporations, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they cut across nation. And same also with the ethnic group. you find Indian people diaspora group across nation, across globe, they very much well networked. So all these are very much, impacting the life also. Okay. So as I mentioned, when you talk about economic transnationalism, it talks about remittance, FDI, entrepreneurship, all these habits, people can be, yes, somebody is raising hand. Okay. So when you talk about economic transnationalism, it talks about transnational corporations and how people are sending remittances, philanthropy, and all those things. FDI, today India's software revolution is kind of transnational or diasporic, impact. So many people come back, they invest, they bring, transport, technology, ideas, and many things, So that's why these are all happening across the nations. And this, when you talk about social area, like we can find lots of, like our even economic social aspect, you find, Bollywood, for example. Bollywood, the demand for Bollywood, cultural consumption is cutting across nation. Now Indian movies are simultaneously released across the globe. So also you find, McDonald's or Starbucks everywhere, all those things are becoming, some are culturally, some are, economically, geographically, they got across nation. So when you talk about transnationalism also, there are two ways to see transnationalism. One form of the transnationalism is transnationalism from the above, like UN organization, like corporations, and transnational global media like BBC, and all these things, they are coming from above. And we can see transnationalism from below. Actually, when you talk about transnationalism, there are so much similarity to globalization. Sometimes you'll be confused, but they are actually similar. So don't get confused. So when you talk about transnationalism from below, that happens when people move from one place to across the globe. It can be like migration of people, informal economy, shadow economy, ethnic nationalism, and you find small locality creating a global impact. If some match is happening in Trivandrum, across the globe, Indian or the opposition, whatever cricket, two parties, two um, teams are playing, you find global response for that. Same with everything. Anybody get affected, like somebody insulted in USA based on ethnic origin, a global response will find. Okay, so these are all happening today. When you talk about, okay, Sangamitra, you want to ask something?
Yes, sir, I had a question. So should we understand transnationalism as an alternate approach to globalization, because globalization tends to sort of homogenize everything, but transnationalism recognizes the heterogeneity?
Yes, I agree completely. Actually, they are similar, but in this particular aspect, transnationalism differs from globalization. Okay?
Yeah.
It's very much, your observation is correct. When you talk about transnationalism, it actually give your local presence in globe. Okay? So transnationalism is kind of, you can say, it is not homogenization. It is rather, it's like sustaining your own identity. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Local identity or your national identity or your whatever identity it is, it actually give all kinds of support to uh, you know uh, develop your own identity, and you get support for that also. transnational support. Earlier, it was not possible because people are alienated and they are bound to get assimilation, homogenized. Okay, because of this, transnational, network, people are able to, share their ideology, values, culture, customs, everything. So that way it is difference. I wanted to come to there also. What are the similarity and differences between globalization and transnationalism? But you came beforehand and good observation. So when you talk about types of transnationalism, actually broadly there are three types. One is economic transnationalism that goes with FDI. Capital can go anywhere. Okay, these days we talk about Bitcoin also, and anything actually. All things are even Mastercard, Visa, and all this is a globalized economy. Okay, remittances also like that. People go from one place to another, but they send money back home or back to their other, families and all. So that is also globalized. Trade and commerce, consumption, as I mentioned, Bollywood. Bollywood, many places, wherever Indians are there, they watch Bollywood. Not only Indians, South Asian, even other people are watching, but largely it is the Indian, South Asian. So their consumption of culture is possible because of this. And that create economy, You talk about ethnic entrepreneurship, ethnic food, ethnic, all this ethnic, consumption. If you go abroad, you find lots of little India. Even in India, you find lots of Chinatown in Calcutta and Chinatowns elsewhere also. So these are all again create certain kind of economy based on consumption, culture, and all. And production also. I'll give you example of production, how it is very much transnational. Today you find anything, don't think it's coming from China or this. The parts are, the concept, the ideas are, given shape in somewhere like California, you can say. The parts are produced in different places, something in Korea, something in, China. They got assembled in Mexico and they are marketed across the globe. So every small thing, even you talk about television, all 4 or 5 parts are produced in different location across the globe and they are assembled somewhere. Same with, I think, car also or bike also. Most of the bikes in India, Bajaj and all, parts come from China and other places. Okay, assembled in India and marketed elsewhere within India and other places. So this happening in all aspects of our economic life. Then political life, you can say, transnationalism is very much important. Today we can see this is happening across the globe. I just today morning I was browsing, Google, how many countries have given voting rights to their migrants and migrants outside country, and this is increasing. And sometimes, you find and today also we talk about NRI voting and government election commission already talking about giving the right to migrant within India. Okay, because migrants are a huge number, 450 millions within India, internal migrants, almost 30 million, so 3 crores almost outside India, but many of them have Indian citizenship. But this is a huge number, and if you want to sustain democracy, next 20, 30 years, you can think futuristically, migration will happen more and more, and how to sustain our political system, democracy, anything. So we have to rethink actually about voting rights, human rights, and all this. So transnationalism can give us some kinds of perspective because growing, increasingly people are mobile. Even I can say many of, I come from very remote rural area. From 30, 40 years back, there was not, migration from village to other place. Now, almost 10 to 20% people are outside the village. And it will increase over time as people go for study, for job and all this. And some villages you find almost 70-80% people, every family, 2-3 people are out of the village and they go either out of country or within the country. So this,
Uh,
yes,
Second one, political voting rights.
yes, that is
Is
what
not
yes, I'm saying many countries already considering this is a very important area of concern. Philippines already gave the voting rights to their migrant. If they stay for at least 1 year in Philippines and 6 months in another place uh, within the Philippines, they have voting rights, whether they are in America or any country. So many countries, even I think Colombia, Mexico, so many countries they have given voting rights to their people, irrespective of the place of stay. So
but
this
India, sir, India not encouraging this
India
online voting system to NRIs.
recently, last 2-3 months, they are considering within the country migrants, but NRI voting rights is still debatable. I think any time in future it may come up.
Yes, sir. Recently, many NRIs are raised this issue in Pravasi Bharatiya Divas
Yes,
in front of that HRD minister, but
yes,
they didn't answer to this question. Voting rights to NRI electronic way they have,
yes,
but they are not given promise to make this streamline.
yes. There are apprehension of kind of money power and other, because NRIs are very NRI especially they are financially rich. Once they are given voting rights, people within India, they're afraid of that because, for example, you can say some multinational company, Vijay Mallya and somebody which outside India can influence many things within India. No, he has voting rights, but now he is positive. But many people outside India, they have lots of financial resource. Once they use that, they can actually influence. So many people within India, they are afraid of. But I think many countries have accepted that. As I gave example of Colombia, Philippines, Australia, Austria, and many other countries, they have given selectively, but many countries gave full-fledged. So this is happening across the globe wherever migrations are happening. You can just Google voting rights of diaspora voting rights or international migrant voting rights. You find a list of countries which have given full voting rights, list of countries who have given selectively. So it is happening across the globe because you see many countries have 60-70% migration outside their country, Italy and all. So in order to sustain their political or democracy, they have to think something else out of way. So the third one is social and cultural, socio-cultural. So this is what happening. If tomorrow nobody can think of very pure form of identity. Where so much migration is happening, and especially Western countries, almost 3/5 of their population are migrant. Okay, some countries almost 80% are migrant. So how to sustain? And today already Kamala Harris, Rishi Sunak, and many other, even Guyana, the Prime Minister, Trinidad, Tobago, many Suriname. We find many people are from, they are of Indian origin. Not only that, they have transnational, like Kamala Harris is from Uganda, Rishi Sunak from Tanzania and I think Kenya, both parents. So like that, there are transnational where you can find multiple locations and they are, allegiance to all these places. So these are all happening now and we cannot help. And if we restrict the citizenship, it will be a problem. We'll stop, getting vibrant people in economy, political area, and cultural area. Okay. Then you talk about hybridity, lots of intermarriages, and all these are happening. So the offsprings are now, you cannot compartmentalize in any particular identity. So they can be Indo-American in terms of citizenship. They can be different race also. They are because of intermarriage. So this is what happening. And same also with their consumption pattern. You see lots of countries you find now demand for their own uh, taste, like they consume their own food and all. So we find lots of ethnic market across the globe, which in the form of ghetto society like Chinatown, Little India and all, as I gave example. So how to connect with globalization and transnationalism? Actually, they are so interconnected. Sometimes it's difficult to, see what is, they look like same. But so whereas globalization is bringing homogenized, more interconnected, interdependent world economy, transnationalism also bringing, but homogenization, it is like you can be Indian or your own religious, you can do culture also, you can perform anywhere you are. Like many countries also, they don't find it is a problem. Australia is promoting multiculturalism, many Western countries also. But some countries, they don't give preferences. So this is what, we find now because of transnationalism and globalization, it is happening. So when you talk about globalization, I think many people if you don't know exactly what is, but you are experiencing that. Globalization constitutes integration of national economy into the international economy through trade, direct investment by corporations and multinational, short-term capital flows, international flow of workers and humanity generally, and flow of technology. All these things. Technology is so much pervasive now, and capital and human being also. So the reality now affect every part of the globe and every person on it, even though in a wildly differing local context. You see, till 90s we are closed economy. Liberalization was not there. So capital from other countries to India was not flowing that much. So after 90s, economically we are means highly globalized. So also the people going other countries, after 90s when software boom happened, many high skilled people have gone. And today you talk about digital nomad, many times you talk now, many European countries, they have given citizenship, you allowed these digital nomads. People, Spanish people can go to UK and take long-term visa and simply stay there and work anywhere. So this is the reality of work life today, and people find it easy sometimes because sometimes this actually people when they move and work, they find a suitable place where things are cheaper, convenient, and all we need is a network. Okay, so this is what happening. Then we talk about various dimensions of globalization. It can be related to people, things, action, values, and when you talk about movement of people, it is migration. Okay, so then people when they go out, they also communicate. They create their own, kinds of issues, challenges. When things we talk about transport, resource, and all this, that also globalized, and action, values. All this I already explained, but as if you see the time zone, post 1500, the movement of people gradually started with colonization and all. In post 1820, you find as colonization spread, they have also brought integration, okay? And post 1945, things have changed again because of communication, transport, and lots of revolution happened in the sea transport, surface transport, air transport. All these things brought different kind of global experience. When you talk about globalization in terms of economy, this is actually two things we think about: market and product. When you talk about market, it is demand supply, either labor or capital. You find lots of things are happening, and markets are also very dynamic. It depends upon the rules, regulation, so many factors, like before COVID and after COVID, you can find lots of corporations have changed their base from one country to other country. Many left China during COVID time. China took over many corporates. So things are happening. Any big event can change the course of demand and supply also. Product, I gave example. Now, single product you find multiple, places it is manufactured, okay, and assembled, conceptualized. So this is what happening for every product. Say it television, vehicles, or any computer, any aspect. Then the drivers of globalization and transnationalism, they all go together, as I mentioned, each other complementing, though transnationalism is is identity based more. So when you talk about drivers of globalization, like capital, you talk about FDI, remittances, trade and commerce, all these are driving the globalization or transnationalism. Suppose you have a capital, you can even attract people. You can, develop international trade. All you need is capital. So now if you see globally, if you divide global south, global north, you find, capital rich countries are in global north, and labor rich people are, means lots of labor you find in global south. So the impact, capital impact the migration. So also technology, as I mentioned, because of technology, we are able to network with people, and that network actually even impact in other area like innovation, like investment, like networking with people, that impact social life, all these things. And migration of people. Migration of people also is driving, is a globalization from below, as I mentioned. This also changing the world scenario now. You already, people from India, they're going different countries, and the demographic change happening, that is creating impact in political life and many other areas, cultural life and all. And fourth is global political and legal regimes. This also you find because of so many global organizations coming up. Even you find UN system was there before. In 19, I think the ILO was established first, then other UN system came in 1940s, 50s, and so many other organizations. So that gave a globalizing experience of many corporations, and that actually brought so many factors, legal system, political system, legal regimes, which facilitated the global economic, kind of trade business, WTO, you can say, then you can, so many areas they facilitated global flow of capital, trade, technology, and also people migrating. You see, today you talk about various migration regime, selectively or whatever, migration happening across the globe. So this kind of, multilateral organization are facilitating. So that's why they create a global, they're driver of globalization. Okay. Then we talk about how they are related. Actually, they are both very much related. And you find in the area of social relation, you find almost every area, transfer of cultural practices, food habit, and all. You find dosa in New York, you can find Chinese Maggie across the globe. You see, there are some food who are very much adaptable to the globe, like Maggie is very popular across the globe and it is very affordable. So became very popular. McDonald's is popular among many people, especially the youth across the globe. So like that, you find transnationalization of food, and even that is changing the cultural habit, food habit, and many things. Okay. And this also impacts the ethnic identity, So there are lots of hyphenated identities happening today. You find Mexican American, you find Caribbeans who are of American, Caribbean Americans and all this. So there is no single identity. Sometimes it is creating, and not sometimes, all the time it's creating more hyphenated identity. Okay, and that is the reality of our transnational existence. Okay. What are the challenges when you talk about transnational? Achha, anybody want to ask? Somebody named Redmi. Okay. So it has lots of challenges. Okay. Like because of transnationalism, you find lots of, impact of NRI on India, You can find before election, anytime cricket match happening, any big event happening, you can all of you know that. Okay, so that tests the loyalty of people. And today, government has given dual citizenship to some selected people. OCI card, especially, this is a form of dual citizenship also. So this kind of challenges are happening, but it is also problem for many countries' citizens. Like some area it is okay, but in some places the people are actually finding this very challenging because they will be questioned by their host society. Like I interacted with Malaysia, citizens of Malaysia, Indian origin, and they told this kind of dual citizenship actually can create problem for them in their own countries. Okay, people will question their allegiance. So this kind of things are happening. So when you talk about transnationalism and diaspora in Indian context, actually, as you know, even last class I also mentioned, Indian people have migrated to many countries. At least 30 countries, they are significant minority, and some countries are majority also, like Mauritius, Suriname, Guyana, and they are significant minority in some countries like Malaysia, and you can find in Sri Lanka also to some extent. So this can create lots of challenges. You have already known about LTT, Sikh, pan global, you can say pura Sikh terrorism. It was happening, sometimes back. So all these are all challenge also because of this kind of transnationalism. Okay, you find families in several countries. Okay, so these are all different, how to handle this cultural challenge, social challenge, political challenge, and all this, because people have migrated to so many countries, they have so many emotional, cultural baggage, and their allegiance is different. All this kind of thing create challenge for home country, host country also. Okay. And this also you can find varies across different diaspora. Like old diaspora have different kind of relationship with India than the new diaspora, which you call NRI. When there is an election in India, especially, you have witnessed in Punjab, even in our general election, mostly they are NRI, not the old diaspora. You don't find people from Fiji, Trinidad, Tobago, and Malaysia getting involved in national politics of India. Rather, people from UK, USA, and even Gulf, they are more involved because they are NRIs. So they are all mostly first and second generation Indians. So there is a different kind of approach for old diaspora and new diaspora. Okay. Old diasporas are only culturally linked to India, whereas new diaspora are also they are mostly politically and economically. Okay. Yes, Salim.
Hey sir, just one doubt regarding, like, I want to have like opinion from your side. Is there any kind of movement or activity happening inside India to consider the minorities across the India and make them as like an old diaspora? And so those kind of political activities happening around the from top to bottom, and the CNRC issues being related to that. Is there any kind of approach or like thought process?
Yes, you find NRC protest was there across the globe. When Modi even goes abroad, people protest, So these are all, I'm saying, local events are highly globalized and transnational. People protest across the globe. And this is happening actually. Even today, I think, not now, I think during NRC, wherever Prime Minister has gone or External Affairs Minister gone, you can find lots of protest, but our mainstream media didn't cover, but you can find through YouTube and all. This is happening. Any issue within India or in diaspora is transnational now. Okay.
Do you feel that the Indian minorities over here are old as part of old diaspora, and the culture they possess or the culture they follow are like, again, actually there's again a whole different kind of debate which happened, that what is Indian and what is not Indian, and the cultural minorities does possess is like something out of Indian. Is there any kind of or to say perspectives on that? Just asking.
No, actually, when you talk about transnational or diaspora, they are not, these people are not residing in India. You can find Muslim diaspora or Christian diaspora, even Sindhi diaspora. You see, diaspora is not very monolithic also. Indian diaspora is a, term given to all, but there are, within that, there are so many small, sub-ethnic or sub-regional diaspora. Okay. So when you talk about within India minority, they are not diaspora. They are Indians, Indian citizens. So this transnationalism will not apply to them. But I agree with you, when there is a problem here, it has a transnational response. For example, NRC were telling, it has a transnational response across the globe. People react to that positively or negatively. Okay. But within India, we cannot call them as diaspora or transnational. Okay. So now talking about implication of transnationalism on political and policy domain. Actually, as you all know, India has already surpassed all countries, China, in terms of population. And it has already the largest diaspora in the world, 31 million, which is largest. And all of you know very well, China is aging, India is still young. So coming 20, 30 years, we find lots of people from India to other countries will migrate. Okay, so migration is a big, big challenge, and especially country like India, where employment issues are there and poverty and so many challenges, people will definitely migrate. Okay, so this kind of scenario will give lots of transnational, kind of venture for Indian people from India going many countries. Now it is around 3 crores. It may be 6, 7 crores after 20 years. Just imagine the kind of impact it will have. If not today, tomorrow it may have. Now economically they are playing very important role, and tomorrow they may play political also. And many people will be back actually. Gulf migration, as I think our friend is working on that, um, especially Gulf migration. Uh, our friend has gone, I think. Vijayanar is in Kuwait, and she will tell like many people will be back over time. Okay. So this kind of thing, and already many people are, during COVID, almost 7 million people have come back, to the country. So this kind of approach, you have to think about how to shorten this transnational migration in a positive way, which can benefit both economically and politically. So we have to rethink about citizenship, voting rights, long distance politics, and it can intensify in the coming years, as you all know, because of revolution in IT field and all. Then we have to think about so many other policies, like when people come back from Gulf to India or USA to India, a latter part of their life, suppose somebody is a lawyer in USA and come back to India, they have to exercise their skills here. So we have to think about portability of skill, retirement benefit, and so many other areas where I think many countries are working on that and they have implemented. But in India, I think this will be a big area to rethink actually. Then hybridity. I think many places, I don't know, many of you might be experiencing whatever you are eating in the childhood, just remember what kind of food, and today what kind of food you are eating. You can relate also kind of change happening in your food and dress and many other area. Okay, so this is partly because of migration, and today people protest about momo and so many things and about various food, but it is because of migration people have brought this kind of a kind of food culture. Because of migration, new languages have come. It's all hybridization in every field happening. Then you find another area implication also, like translocality. People can live simultaneously in many places. They can have a place where they can spend holidays, they can go to work, they can go to some place where their family members are there. So this is a kind of way of life happening in India's. Some of the elites, they have this kind of experience. They stay in Mauritius, their families in New York, and they come back to India and spend few months. So this is what happening, and we have to rethink about this kind of category. How to, if we exclude, there is a negative and side also. If we include, there is a negative side also and positive side. Both way you can think also. Like for example, if you don't give a billionaire entrepreneur chance to uh, set up their industry, you will be loser. Okay, so same thing, many countries like Europe and USA, they think in terms of their positive side. Many people today, Obama, Kamala Harris, even Trump himself, they are all migrants some point of time. Okay, so their forefather or whatever, but the society, the nation have thought, we have to give equal right to everyone. So today you find leadership, in the hand of even migrants. So that is what their society evolved, and our society also experiencing migration and transnationalism in a great way. And we have to rethink all these policies, because as increasingly you see, even USA is not granting green card, uh, so much restrictions are coming. Gulf is not, granting citizenship. Many countries are restricting the citizenship now, and the migration will be more temporary also sometimes. Maybe people go for 10 years, 20 years, they'll be back. So we have to rethink about so many aspects of people, their, latter life, how they'll be living here, the kind of, social security aspect. We have to think all those things when you talk about transnationalism. Okay? As globalization intensifies, migration, diaspora formation, transnationalism, all these, we find, it is affecting both virtual and real spaces. Okay? And it is very difficult to isolate any activities from the transnational or global forces. So policies of local government is influenced by transnational process. Families in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, as I mentioned, are influenced by transnationalism. For example, remittance coming from Gulf or other places, and the education, the kind of housing, the kind of impact there in rural economy happening, you cannot differentiate, from transnational or globalization. A lot many things you can think actually. So this is a very important area to do research and think about, how future policy will be, and you also think about how the future of education will be. Now, government is thinking of, bringing so many universities to set up their, business in India. So that is also another way to see how transnationalism is working. Many Indians will come back, as professor, this thing, if that is successful, because when we see long back, 1960s, IIT, IIM and all this started, we find lots of brain gain for India, So these are all happening now, and it is a different times, space for us to see how transnationalism can impact our life. And being a huge country and having lots of migration in India, we have to see the possibility of, scholars like you who are working on migration, how to understand migration, how to understand transnationalism, how to contribute. And actually this kind of, like being a scholar in migration and diaspora, you can throw lots of insight into this kind of phenomena happening in your latter research and activities, whoever working in NGO field or in academic or in policy, and this kind of things will be very, very, very useful for you. So I'll stop here. If there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer. Okay, any question? Abha or anybody, Diksha, Nirmal, Sanghamitra, anybody? If you don't have question, I'll stop here. Already we have, we crossed close to 1 hour.
Excuse me, sir. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah, this is Jitan speaking. Could you please elaborately enlighten about this old diaspora and new diaspora, very specifically, with a case, something in a case study with?
Okay. So these categories are given to people who actually old diaspora means, especially those who have gone pre-colonial time and colonial time, and they cut off from India especially. They are no way very much related economically, politically, neither they are coming physically. So they are cut off, but they are virtually linked in the sense imaginary world, they are linked, like they nurture the, kind of memory they took from India. Okay. They nurture their culture, they nurture the stories, myths and all. So these kind of old diasporas are found in, you can find even, Trinidad, Tobago, Malaysia, Bali. You can find there, in the form of the dress, food habit, their, practicing religion, every aspect. But this diaspora, they have no, currently they are not very much linked to India because they have lost, touch over generation. And that was very difficult time for them to keep in touch. People have gone, they don't have resource actually also. Many have gone as poor, but now some people who are rich, they could recall their, ancestors and they can come back. But this is the old diaspora. And before even colonialization, there are trade diaspora of Sindhis, Gujaratis. There are religious diasporas who have gone to, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and all during Buddhism. There are more ancient, diasporas like who have gone to Bali, Sumatra, and all as traders. So, and also they practice this. So many of them, this category of diaspora, they lost touch with India physically. Okay, this is the old diaspora. Whereas the new diaspora, especially the diaspora which is very much connected with India, and many of them have passport, Indian passport also. Okay, like NRI. We also call them diaspora. And they are highly in touch with India, and they sometimes, they are investing in India, they are patronizing certain political ideas and coming for political campaign, and they are involved in philanthropy. So their strong network because their family is still, available back India. Okay, so family and kinship ties are still strong because only 1 or 2 generations have gone. So this is new diaspora. So if you differentiate, they have different type of orientation towards India. One, the old diaspora is cut off politically and economically, but culturally very active. The new diaspora is linked with India in almost every field. Okay, because their relationship, their their network is very strong with India. So this is the difference. Anybody else?
So just one thing, you mentioned that the Indian government is also thinking about giving voting rights, but would the diaspora or be actually aware about what is happening in India if they are also the part of another country and where they are currently living, and they will be more and more attuned to what is happening in that country rather than in this in the Indian state.
See, this is the thing happening in many countries, as I gave example. Highly migrant countries like Philippines, so many countries, Colombia and all, they have already given this, One person in Colombia, I was reading today, he is living in USA and is contested, election in Colombia. And he didn't win, but such kind of things are happening. Okay. And today I was just reading the article of Qureshi, the election commission of 10 years back. He was election commission and he was welcoming this idea of giving voting rights of migrants within India. Okay. So it is, once this is done, the other thing is not far behind because many countries have done that with check and balance. It can happen because many people are actually migrating. Migration is happening so much, and coming years it will have lots of migration because of many reasons. I was just thinking about this demographic shift happening across the globe. Like
But sir, one thing is there, na, if let's say somebody has migrated from a state to another state, they are still within India and are aware about the local politics also. While anyone internationally who have migrated would be aware about more of a national level politics rather than the state politics and other things. So by giving them the voting rights, will it not disturb the, I mean, I don't know, I'm asking you in terms of the countries who have given that voting right, will it not be a little bit of biasness based on the international reflection of the government in power at the central, rather than what is happening at the ground level and what type of changes are required at the subnational level?
I already told that thing because they have money power, they have international clout. It is the apprehension that they can influence, even 1% of diaspora can impact, politics of India. But if you see today, even you are in Bhubaneswar, somebody is in Bhubaneswar, we don't know who will be knowing the reality better because propaganda is everywhere. Okay, every political party is pumping so much propaganda through WhatsApp, social media, and all. We also living in the country, we don't know which is true, which is false. Okay, so these are all so many things you have to make, check and balance. But your apprehension is apprehension because this voting rights issue came from 2001 onwards because of apprehension, like what you have been saying. Same thing is the biggest apprehension for India. That's why so far voting rights were not given. And because of the clout they have, money, power, and other things.
So the other question which I had, when we talk about transnationalism and other things, the even the academic institutions and others like Harvard, Oxford, and everybody are basing a lot of their case studies, teaching materials, and other things on the different communities, not necessarily who are living in the country or who are still part of the old setup, but maybe on the mobile or what we say is the transnational community. And does that not distort what is being taught? Because if you really look at one topic which we have been really talking about is gender empowerment and other things, a lot of the debate has been going on. It is seen, at a certain level where the women rights were curtailed. Before that, there was a lot of rights, but because some people came, the curtailment of rights happened. And today, again, we are trying to give them a right, but that right is again based on the assumptions of the Western world rather than what is within the Indian context, Indian cultural ethos and other things.
Actually, I agree also, I disagree also, because there is no clear answer to this, because when we brought liberalization, this kind of apprehension was there, that our economy will be collapsed. And technology also, when came computer and all, people thought that our employment will be, means people have no employment, computer will take the job. You see the other side, even the most prosperous country today, they're open to people. They're taking, they're bringing new people. Their society is almost, as I mentioned, 3/5 of the population are migrants in many Western countries, and still they're managing. And they're open, they're courageous that way. We are afraid of, people will come, they'll change our culture and all. I don't think culture is any static culture. Every culture is changing, and whether we observe it, we don't observe it, we know it, we may not knowing it. The culture we had in our childhood time has changed a lot. Whether Any kind of culture you take, Holi.
Of course, culture is changeable, and it will change as the time goes by, as the knowledge goes. So the another one of the thoughts which prop up is what is the work type invitations to the international diaspora, to the migrants is happening. Has there been any study on what type of migration is happening? Where are we going? What type of from the various countries, what type of migration is invited for? Because if I understand, Filipinos, the Philippines, the Vietnamese, the Thailand, a lot of people say the service sector, and not the high-end service sector, but the low-end service sector is where most of these went. As was done in British India time period. So are there some studies where this has been documented or something, and where we could listen, specifically in today's context, not the earlier context?
You see, as far as my understanding, or see the global statistics given by IOM and other studies, there is no static thing. Like a few years back, you find lots of high professionals, they're going to USA and Europe, and low skilled people are going to Gulf. Okay, last 10 years at least, Europe is not taking very high skilled, that is still there, but they're taking people who are low skilled but in service, like nurses, physiotherapists and all, because of aging population. Okay, that last 10 years, this kind of demand for this kind of labor is growing. Golf, in the other hand, so far, we find low skilled and all, but if you see how golf is, I think, Vijay and all know, that is also technologically becoming very, very different. Another 10 years, lots of robotics, automation will be there in golf. So once this kind of low end work is over, you don't find there is demand for low end, low skilled people there also over time. So things are changing across the, globe, and you find there is nothing static. USA have been, very, consistently taking high end people, professionals, but they will have always in demand across the globe, professionals. But all other jobs, you cannot even predict, how things will be. But that's why I'm saying that the statistics, we need to plan better. Actually, Indian government so far, it is all given to the people. They will select where to go and all. As you mentioned, Philippines management of migration, migration governance is one of the model. Every other country, even in the debate, in the migration debate, they all refer to Philippines model, because they have been managing so well their female migration, their skilled migrant across the globe. Their educational institutions are so much tuned to train for global workforce. We need to learn a lot, because country with surplus labor like Philippines and India, we cannot think of only local economy. We have to think of global economy, and we have to see some supply and demand of various skills, destination countries, and accordingly we have to prepare our, migration governance. That is what not happening. So far, what is happening in India is a regulated kind of governance. What we need, what you are also intending is, we need to have more enabling system where we should facilitate and give all the information, kind of guidance and support to migrants, so that the migration itself should be a good experience. So that is what not happening, and there is a long way to go, especially for India. And Indian migrants are not having a happy experience in the process, because if you see the human rights violation in Gulf, which I think Vijay used to always say, and so many other issues, we are not able to address them properly. So there is a long way to go, and we have to see how we have to collect proper data, destination countries, so many things, and I think we are not that much investing time, energy, fund to that area. And I think this kind of program, what we are doing, it is primarily to create kind of professionals to understand this process and to understand the how the best policies are happening across the globe. So hopefully in the future, we don't know.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll stop here. I encourage all of you to ask questions so that I'll also take a breathing space, and also we can actually engage in more debate and discussion rather than one-way teaching. Okay, so goodbye, and we'll meet next Saturday for third unit.